If you were an Indiana Fever fan, if you're a Caitlin Clark fan, it was a brutal game to sit through. No Caitlin Clark, no Sophie Cunningham, no Chloe Bibby.
The Indiana Fever just showed the world a terrifying secret. For months, they've been riding the coattails of a phenomenon. But with Caitlin Clark on the bench, the curtain was pulled back, and what was left was a total nightmare. The Atlanta Dream didn't just beat the Fever, they dismantled them, exposing a team that looks utterly lost and uninspired without its rookie savior. Fans immediately erupted, demanding Clark's return, and it raises a chilling question. Is this even a real team, or is it just a one-woman show?
And I've said it before, it's my understanding that Natasha Howard was signed to be the fourth big star on this team. And if Caitlin Clark is not playing, well, it seems to me like Natasha Howard should move up, and it becomes a big three, right? The only problem is, only one of your now intact big three decided to show up, and it was Kelsey Mitchell.
With their superstar sideline, the team's so-called Big Three was put to the test. What happened next was a total meltdown. Only one of them, Kelsey Mitchell, seemed to understand the season was on the line. Mitchell went into battle mode, dropping a massive 27 points and fighting tooth and nail. She looked like a true professional surrounded by players who seemed to have forgotten how to compete, but her heroic effort was drowned out by the shocking silence from her co-stars. It was a lonely fight and one she was destined to lose from the start.
Made that noise as well. Maybe. Mitchell floats it in. Close the foul.
The biggest disappointment was Aaliyah Boston, the former #1 pick, who was supposed to be Clark's partner in building a dynasty. Instead, she was a ghost. She finished with just 8 points on a miserable 3 of 9 shooting. Boston, the player meant to be the cornerstone of the franchise alongside Clark, completely disappeared when the lights were brightest. She looked passive, hesitant, and completely outmatched, a shadow of the dominant force she was supposed to be. For a player of her caliber in a moment that demanded her best, it was an unforgivable no-show. But if you only looked at the final box score, you might have missed the real story. The 8 points next to Boston's name is a complete deception, a statistical lie designed to soften the blow of her disastrous performance. For 3.5 quarters, Boston was a complete non-factor, sitting on a pathetic 4 points. It was only when the game was completely out of reach, during meaningless garbage time, that she managed to score a couple of easy buckets against a defense that had already clocked out. It was a transparent attempt to pad her stats and make her night look slightly less embarrassing, but anyone who actually watched knows the truth. When the game mattered, she was a ghost.
I'm still mad. This was a winnable game for the Indiana Fever in round one. Game one versus the Atlanta Dream. We had the opportunity to steal one. We came out with the right energy, the right focus. The second quarter, they made adjustments. They upped their intensity, slowed down the game, upped their physicality, and we just didn't make any adjustments. Yes, the referees were clowns. Yes, Aaliyah Boston was a no-show. Yes, Natasha Howard looked like a fossil out there on the floor who should not be in the league because she's washed. Yes, all of that is true. Our head coach, Stephanie White, is a bonehead. All of that is true. And with that being said, we had an opportunity to win. And now we have Stephanie White at the podium with no idea on what to do to help us win a game.
And Boston wasn't the only star who went missing. Natasha Howard, a 3-time WNBA champion and former All-Star, played like she'd rather be anywhere else. She took a measly 7 shots and finished with 5 points. This is a veteran who knows what it takes to win, a player who has averaged nearly 20 points per game in this league. Yet, in a crucial game without the team's main scorer, she decided to become a passive role player. Her contribution was so minimal it was insulting, a complete abdication of responsibility from someone who should have known better. This wasn't just a bad performance from Howard, it was a stunning failure of leadership. As one of the most decorated veterans on the roster, she was supposed to be the steady hand that guided the team through the storm of Clark's absence. She should have been demanding the ball, setting the tone with her aggression and rallying the younger players. Instead, she hid in the shadows, deferring to others, and playing with a shocking lack of urgency. It created a massive leadership vacuum that sucked the life out of the entire team. In the moments they needed a champion to step up, she was nowhere to be found. And the problems didn't stop on the court. They echoed through the stands. Despite what official attendance numbers might say, photos from the game don't lie. Gainbridge Fieldhouse was riddled with empty white seats, a jarring sight after months of sold-out crowds and deafening energy. The roar that follows Clark's every move was replaced by a flat, lifeless murmur. It sent a clear and devastating message. The fans show up for Caitlin Clark. Without her, the magic vanishes, and so do the people. The building felt less like a playoff atmosphere and more like a library. Resting your superstar isn't just a basketball decision. For this franchise, it's an act of economic suicide. The Indiana Fever were a forgotten team just a few months ago. Caitlin Clark single-handedly made them the hottest ticket in sport. Every game she sits is a massive financial loss in ticket sales, merchandise, and national interest. The league itself relies on her presence for its ratings. To willingly bench the Golden Goose in a home playoff game is a baffling business move that suggests the front office has no idea what they're doing. They're not just risking a loss, they're risking their entire newfound relevance. The game itself was a slow-motion collapse. The final score of 80-68 doesn't even begin to tell the story of how uncompetitive the Fever were. This wasn't a hard-fought battle that came down to the wire. From the opening minutes, the Dream were in complete control. The Fever's offense was disjointed, their defense was sluggish, and they played with the urgency of a team going through a preseason scrimmage. By halftime, the outcome felt inevitable. It was a demoralizing performance that revealed a shocking lack of professional pride. Meanwhile, the person leading the team, head coach Christie Sides, seemed just as lost. How do your two-star forwards, Boston and Howard, combine for only 16 shots in a game where you're desperate for offense? The game plan was baffling. It seemed like there was no plan at all beyond hoping Kelsey Mitchell could score 50. Sides eventually picked up a technical foul, a moment some tried to spin as a fiery act of leadership. But it was nothing more than a hollow gesture. A technical doesn't fix a broken offense or magically inspire players to show up. It was a sign of desperation from a coach who had no other answer. To make matters worse, the officiating was a circus. Missed calls, phantom fouls, and a complete lack of consistency plagued the game for both teams. The WNBA has a known officiating problem, and this game put it on full display. The whistles were so erratic that neither team could find a rhythm, and it turned parts of the game into an unwatchable mess. But bad refs are never an excuse for bad play. The Fever didn't lose this game because of a few blown calls. They lost because their supposed stars decided not to show up for work. Using the refs as a scapegoat is just a distraction from the much uglier truth. But the loudest voices came from the stands and online, where fans unleashed their fury. This wasn't just about one loss, it was about seeing their hopes for the franchise crumble the moment Clark stepped off the floor. They are no longer willing to give Boston and Howard the benefit of the doubt. Boston is young, but patience is wearing thin. And Howard is a veteran who is expected to lead, not hide. Fans are paying premium prices for Clark, and they feel cheated when the supporting cast fails so spectacularly. It's an ultimatum: bring back Caitlin, or we're gone. And let's not forget the stories of heartbreak from fans who traveled across the country for this game. We're talking about families who saved up for months, spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on tickets, flights, and hotels, all for the chance to see their hero play. They arrived at the arena wearing number 22 jerseys, only to find out their dream experience was a bust. They were promised a superstar, and instead got a lackluster team that didn't seem to care. Do you think those families will ever spend that money again? The team didn't just lose a game, they shattered the trust of their most passionate new supporters. The team's entire offensive philosophy was exposed as a complete fraud without Clark. They shot a pathetic 8 of 29 from beyond the arc. The trio of Boston, Howard, and Lexi Hull combined for just a single three-pointer. In today's game, that isn't just bad. It's basketball malpractice. Without Clark's gravity stretching the floor and creating open looks for everyone else, the offense seized up and reverted to an outdated, ineffective style that stood no chance against a disciplined defense. They looked like a team from 20 years ago. It all circles back to Kelsey Mitchell's lonely war. She poured in 27 points, fighting with everything she had, likely wondering if her teammates had any pulse at all. She was forced to carry an impossible burden while Boston and Howard played like they were afraid of the spotlight. Mitchell did her job and then some, but she can't be the point guard, the primary scorer, and the emotional leader all at once. They didn't just have an off night, they actively avoided the responsibility that comes with being a star player, leaving Mitchell and the fans completely stranded. This game did more than just expose bad performances. It exposed the roster's glaring flaws. The team has been constructed entirely around Caitlin Clark's once-in-a-generation talent. Her gravitational pull on defense is what creates space for players like Boston to operate in the paint. Her court vision is what sets up easy shots for everyone else. When you remove that central pillar, the entire structure collapses. There isn't enough shooting, there isn't another primary playmaker, and the so-called stars prove they can't create their own offense. The front office has built a team that is dangerously and perhaps fatally dependent on a rookie. In the end, this is about more than just a single game. The Indiana Fever are playing with fire. Caitlin Clark is not just their best player, she is their brand, their lifeline, and the sole reason for their national relevance. By benching her and allowing the team to put forth such an embarrassing effort, the front office is sending a dangerous message. They are risking the loyalty of a fan base they just earned. Fans are now demanding Clark's return, not asking, because they know the truth. The league is afraid to admit, without her, the Indiana Fever simply don't matter.